A homeless man on the streets of Mexico City who believes he is the son of God. A young Indonesian woman who seems frozen, her muscles refusing to move, her face blank, her body locked in place. An American college student whose life is falling apart because he's convinced the CIA is trying to abduct him and sell his organs to interdimensional aliens. These three people sound like they couldn't be more different, but they share one thing in common: a diagnosis of schizophrenia. You've probably heard the word before, through movies, TV shows, or simply because it's one of the most widely known psychiatric conditions. It's also one of the most disabling mental illnesses in existence, and there's no shortage of terrifying stories associated with it. But here's the problem. The Hollywood version and the public's general idea of schizophrenia is often wildly exaggerated, while still barely scratching the surface of what this disorder really is. Schizophrenia is a mysterious illness that can dramatically alter mood, behavior, personality, and, most hauntingly, someone's perception of reality. So today, we're going to unravel the twisted web of symptoms, horror, and hope behind this true monster of the mind. Before we dive in, a few things need to be crystal clear. First, schizophrenia is not dissociative identity disorder, sometimes known as multiple personalities. That's a completely different diagnosis. The idea that schizophrenia means switching personalities is a common myth, and it's wrong. Second, this topic may include references to crimes committed during psychosis, so viewer discretion is advised. But we also need to say this clearly. Not everyone with schizophrenia is violent, and schizophrenia does not automatically make someone dangerous. We'll return to this because it's one of the most harmful misconceptions out there. And finally, if you suspect someone you know may be experiencing schizophrenia, or if you're worried about yourself, don't self-diagnose and don't diagnose others. Many symptoms overlap with other conditions like depression and anxiety. Diagnosis should always be made by a mental health professional. With that said, let's begin. Modern diagnostic models often describe schizophrenia symptoms in two broad categories: positive and negative. That doesn't mean good and bad. Positive symptoms are things that are present when they shouldn't be, new experiences added to reality. Negative symptoms are things that are missing, normal functions that shrink, fade, or disappear. One of the most well-known positive symptoms is hallucinations, sensory experiences that feel real but aren't coming from the external world. Hallucinations can affect any sense: sight, sound, touch, smell, even taste. But the most common is auditory hallucinations, hearing voices.
These voices can be calm and gentle, or furious, screaming and commanding. Sometimes there's more than one voice at once, arguing over each other. Sometimes they're interactive, allowing people to ask questions and get answers. But the voices alone aren't the whole story. The key difference is how real these experiences feel and how deeply they can reshape a person's reality. A healthy person might hear something bizarre once, maybe during extreme stress or anxiety, and think, "That was strange, I need help." But for someone in psychosis, the voice isn't just a sound. It can feel like a fact, like the world itself is confirming it. And when those voices give commands, the pressure to obey can become overwhelming. What's especially interesting is that hallucinations often reflect cultural background. One person may believe the voice is God. Another may believe it's the devil. Another may believe it's ancestors or aliens. The content changes. The mechanism, the brain's altered reality, remains. The second most common hallucination type is visual. These can range from full scenes, religious figures, ghosts, vivid places, to simpler distortions like objects appearing or disappearing. Some people react with wonder, believing they're witnessing something extraordinary. Others experience raw terror as reality fractures without warning. Hallucinations of touch, smell, and taste are less common, but still possible. And many people experience hallucinations involving multiple senses at the same time, which makes them even more convincing. Another hallmark of schizophrenia is delusions, fixed beliefs that persist even when there's clear evidence against them. One type is grandiose delusions, believing you're of extreme importance, unbelievably intelligent, chosen, royal, or even divine. Some may think they're a misunderstood genius who could save the world. Others may believe they are literally a religious figure. While these can sound harmless at first, they can sometimes lead to reckless or dangerous behavior, especially if a person believes they're invincible. But the most classic delusions are persecutory delusions, the belief that others are targeting you. During the first major onset of psychosis, often called a first episode, a large portion of patients experience this kind of fear. They may believe strangers are watching them in public. They may believe government agencies are monitoring them. Some think thoughts are being stolen from their heads or implanted into their minds. Tragically, these fears can extend even to people they once trusted, family members, friends, partners. In severe cases, someone may lash out because they believe they're preventing an attack that isn't real. Now let's talk about the other side of schizophrenia, the symptoms that are missing. Negative symptoms often appear before hallucinations or delusions, sometimes years earlier. One of the most common is avolition, severe lack of motivation. People may stop going to school, fall behind at work, and lose interest in self-care, showering, brushing teeth, eating properly. From the outside, this is often mistaken for laziness, but it isn't laziness. It's like the engine of motivation has shut down. Social withdrawal often follows, damaging relationships, and because the person may feel little drive to repair those relationships, isolation deepens. Other negative symptoms include reduced ability to feel pleasure, reduced speech and diminished complexity of thought, little or no emotional expression, and emotions that don't match the situation, such as laughing at a funeral. Some people experience abnormal movement symptoms, ranging from jerky motions to catatonia, where a person becomes frozen in a trance-like state for hours. In severe cases, catatonia can lead to serious medical complications, including muscle damage, lung issues, refusal to eat or drink, and without treatment, even death. Schizophrenia also often includes cognitive difficulties. This can mean problems with memory, processing speed, reaction time, and understanding visual information. These symptoms can make work and daily life extremely difficult. Speech can also deteriorate, sometimes into what clinicians call word salad, where words lose their meaningful structure. Another pattern involves rhymes and rhythms taking over speech. In the most severe cases, communication can become almost impossible. Here's one of the scariest aspects of schizophrenia. It can affect almost anyone. It most commonly begins in the late teens through the early 30s, often earlier in males and slightly later in females. Sometimes symptoms develop slowly over years, but in a significant number of cases, onset can be sudden. One day you're stressed about exams, the next a voice narrates your life, arguing, screaming, and refusing to go away. Treatment outcomes are mixed. Antipsychotic medications are commonly prescribed and can reduce hallucinations and delusions, sometimes dramatically, but they don't work for everyone and they can cause serious side effects, including weight gain, diabetes risk, and involuntary muscle movements. Medication is often most effective when combined with therapy, such as cognitive behavioral approaches and family support, so people can learn to manage symptoms and rebuild daily functioning. Another major challenge is insight. A large percentage of people with schizophrenia may deny anything is wrong and refuse treatment. In cases where someone is considered a danger to themselves or others, treatment can be court-ordered, which is terrifying and traumatic for many patients. The causes of schizophrenia remain unclear, but we know there's a genetic component. Risk increases if a parent has schizophrenia, and it becomes much higher in identical twins. But researchers haven't identified a single schizophrenia gene. The best understanding is that it's likely a combination of many genes and environmental triggers. Certain stress-related factors are linked with higher risk.
urban living, poverty, childhood trauma, immigration stress. Some substances, especially heavy cannabis use, are also associated with increased risk, particularly for those with genetic vulnerability. One major biological theory focuses on dopamine pathways. Dopamine is involved in reward, motivation, and mood. Altered dopamine signaling may contribute to both negative symptoms like low motivation and positive symptoms like psychosis, though it's not the full explanation. So, is schizophrenia a life sentence? No, not always. With early support, specialized treatment, and strong long-term care, many people learn to manage symptoms and some recover enough to live relatively stable, meaningful lives. But society makes it harder. People with schizophrenia are more likely to be victims of violence than perpetrators. They face higher risk of medical complications, shorter life expectancy, and tragically elevated suicide risk. They're more likely to be exploited, isolated, homeless, or incarcerated. These are not people who need fear and stigma. They are people who need support, treatment, and dignity. If you learned something from this video, consider sharing it, because misinformation fuels stigma, and stigma blocks treatment. And if you or someone you know is struggling with hallucinations, paranoia, or a break from reality, seek professional help as soon as possible. Early treatment can change everything. Thanks for watching.